Intuition is really, it's your body's signal asking you what you need. Interoceptive accuracy regulates body responses that are related to your emotional experience. And so the more disconnected you are, the more emotional choices you make.
Here's JJ Virgin, triple board certified nutrition and fitness expert and 4-time New York Times best-selling author. It's time to reignite wellness.
Hey, it's JJ, and I have my buddy, wait till you hear this name, and it's real, Razi Berry. I have my buddy Razi Berry on today, who I just adore, talking about something super cool we've never really talked about. You know, I'm big on connecting the dots between what you're eating and how you feel and what you weigh. And we're going to be talking about connection today and really how to use intuition to get healthier and what's going on with this big disconnect and how is it impacting our health. So that's what we're going to be yakking about. I got the perfect person to talk about it, and that is Razi Berry. And Razi Berry is the founder of the award-winning journal Naturopathic Doctor News and Review, and the International Journal of Naturopathic Medicine and the Naturopathic Resource for Patients, naturopath.net. She was awarded the Champion of Naturopathic Medicine by the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians, and in 2018 was elected Vice President of the Health and Wellness Business Association. She also just got an award over at Mindshare as well. And she homeschools while doing all of this. This is super impressive. She homeschools her 2 daughters, and she's writing a book on the science of intuition. She has an amazing podcast, which we will link to. It's called Love is Medicine. It's new and noteworthy and alternative medicine on iTunes. And I'm going to put everything that we're going to be talking about today over at jjvirgin.com/intuition, because that's what we're really going to be talking about today, how to unlock the power of your intuition and get unstuck for better health and fitness. Now, before I go and dive into that, I want to do a shout out on over to, and of course I had this shout out all pulled up, and now I'm like, where the heck did I put that shout out? There it is. So doing a shout out over on my podcast reviews. And by the way, if you have not gone over there yet and subscribed, guess what? This is so, so cool. All you have to do is go to subscribe to JJ. That's it. Subscribe to JJ. How cool is that? So subscribe to JJ and you will be able to subscribe, and right then and there, super easy. And you will also be able to leave a review, because the reviews mean so much to us. And so what I do is every week I read a review. Well, actually, now this is season 2, and the show is on now 3 times a week. So 3 times a week, I read a review, which means we need a lot of reviews so that I can read them all. So that was a big play for saying, please, 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 please need a review. And I have a 5-star from Gravocado, and it says, okay, I love this review. All right. 5 stars. I may sound vain, but you look better than most younger gals. Well, thank you very much, Gravocado. You can totally say that anytime. It says, keep up the intellectual, physical, and other myriads of creative hard work, JJ. Thank you. Super appreciate that. And here's my big ask. Leave a review. Let me know what you'd love to hear more about, what you like. And if there's something we can improve on, let us know that too. This is your show. That's why I get in here with these super cool guests. I get in and do a solo show each week, and I also do Q&A Friday, where we scour my Instagram feed, jj.virgin, Facebook, JJ Virgin Official, and we find the questions and pull them on up. So if you've got something out there that you would like to know about, leave a question for me on one of my social sites, DM me, and we are all over it. All righty. Now, before we dive into this interview, here's another one of my favorites. Razi Berry, welcome to the show.
Hey, JJ, I love when we get a chance to hang out.
I know we had to have a podcast so we could hang out. Yes. I haven't seen you for a bit, which has made
I
me so
know.
sad.
I know.
And
Me
owner
too.
of my favorite name on the planet, Razi Berry.
That is my
Best
real
ever.
name,
I
JJ.
know. It's hey, mine's my real name too. So there you
I
go.
know. I love it.
So you've done so many cool things, or in the process of doing so many cool things in the health community. I would love to, before we dive into intuition today, which I don't think we've talked about at all on this show, so that'll be super cool. Love to know, how you got into doing all the things that you're doing now: magazine publisher, Love is Medicine podcast, Love is Medicine summit. Like, how'd you get here?
Yeah, well, I think just like a lot of us in this field, we have had some sort of health challenge that brought us to really wanting to like find the answers for ourselves. And then when we do, we want to help others. So when I was real young teenager, I had heart failure. I was in the hospital with heart failure, and because I had an eating disorder, and I actually healed from that experience. And that could be like a story for another day, but I had last rites and everything from the priest.
Wow, how do I not know this about you?
You
All
didn't
the
know
years
that?
I've known you.
Yeah.
This is definitely a story that you will need to be working on and telling, because wow. I mean, I didn't know that.
Yes. So anyway, I had kind of a wild experience when I was in the hospital that some people call near death experience, and some people don't like that word. I totally get why. But the important thing is my body healed. And before that, growing up in this really allopathically minded, like we were talking about Flintstones vitamins a minute ago. I was given antibiotics as a child as if they were like candy. I mean, my mom was constantly, she didn't know any better. And every time we sneezed, we'd go to the doctor and get an antibiotic or something. So when suddenly I'm in this experience where my heart is failing and the doctors couldn't do anything, but I healed, it did kind of plant the seed of like, wow, if the doctors didn't heal me, like, how did I heal? So fast forward to my adult life, when I again got sick, um, I went from doctor to doctor. Nobody could do anything for me. And one time I'm at the Mayo Clinic, and I'm like, look, I don't want all these pills that are making my hair fall out and stuff. I want to feel good. And the doctor said to me, one of the doctors told me to go on disability. Well, this doctor said to me, well, this pain isn't in your body, it's in your head. And so, like through tears, JJ, I just looked at her and said, you're fired. And I discovered that I was going to figure it out for myself. And I eventually found naturopathic medicine. And because this whole idea from natural functional integrative medicine that really believes your body heals when you create the right environment, it was so different from anything I'd ever known in my life. And after I experienced that, I was like, I need to make this a career. And that's how it started.
So now we're talking about intuition, and
Which sounds woo
it,
woo, but I don't go in the woo of it.
It's so funny. All the stuff that sounds woo woo, um, like someone might argue that meditation's woo woo or
Mhm.
manifesting's woo woo. And then you sit down and look beyond that and into the science of it and you go, oh, hmm. So I think that's one of the bigger takeaways with a lot of this stuff. But um, intuition, like, first of all, why are we talking about intuition? What
Yeah.
got you interested in that? And how are you putting that into health?
Well, when I first sort of was kind of processing, like kind of as an adult, that my prior issues with eating, I realized that when people have these eating disorders, it's a real disconnection from yourself. I mean, obviously, you're not paying attention to your body's clues. You're not really being fully in your body and listening to the messages your body gives you if you're not even nourishing your body. And then I took a step back after publishing all these studies over the past 15 years of naturopathic medicine and saw that almost every disease, and there's science to back this up, there's numbers to back this up, comes from some sort of disconnection where people aren't listening to what their bodies need, either through overeating, eating the wrong things, you know, eating yourself into diabetes or starving yourself into heart failure, or
Hmm.
abusing or traumatizing a child to a future autoimmune disease. So I started be kind of thinking more about why so many people don't pay attention. I mean, JJ, you're a multiple time New York Times bestselling author, and millions of people have gotten help from your books, but there's always this percentage of people that read your book and don't do a damn thing with all the life-saving information. Why is that? These people are just disconnected. They aren't applying it because they're not listening within. So I
feel like too, Razi, that we, I'll give you the example of weight loss because that's the world I work in. And I was pulling up the other day to Sprouts Market, and just across the street is Weight Watchers. And I said to Tim, I go, "Oh my gosh, is Weight Watchers still around?" He goes, "Is that still relevant?" And I go, "That was like my first foray into weight loss was Weight Watchers and counting up the points and being totally disconnected from, am I hungry? What am I hungry for? Should I, I remember eating all my points like at 9 a.m. just to get done with all that, except that doesn't work.
I can totally see you doing that. Like,
right? I'm so goal oriented. I've got all these points to do today. I'll just do them right now, which is, ridiculous. And, you look at it and go, so much of what I do in my work is get people back in touch with get that connection back, connect the dots. So you're saying this, I'm like, oh, I love this already, because I think that what we do with a lot of these things is we give up our control. We act like we don't really know. We don't really know if that food works for us. We don't really know, we're supposed to be working out more, but so all of a sudden you're working out hours a day, even though your body hurts and it's clearly not what you should be doing. You allow these things to take over for you instead of trusting yourself. So what's going on? Why is that happening?
Well, the reason it happens is because we become disconnected from some of these senses, and I'll explain what they are, that we kind of like any muscle, when we don't rely on them anymore, they atrophy. And so we're all familiar with sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing, the basic senses. But we have a few senses that help us perceive and understand the world around us and inside of us. So we really know what cravings or feelings are telling us we need. And one of them is a sense called interoception. And it's kind of a hard word to remember, but it's basically the scientific term for really being able to be sensitive to and sensible to those inner feelings. Like basic ones are hunger, thirst, arousal, like those people pretty much can understand that. But for millennia, we had to really tune in to these inner feelings to know like what to feed our family, just to make every decision that we made. Well, because of our modern living, we've become so disconnected from the natural world and from the light dark cycles and circadian rhythm. And now we look to like Google and Siri to make all of our decisions, that we're kind of...
Man, I hope we're not looking to Google for our health decisions at this point.
God, I hope not, but I think millions of people are.
Oh boy.
I know.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Exactly. So this sense has been just sort of lost. And the studies show that people with many diseases and things like disordered eating and things like diabetes and obesity and things like that, they have this kind of numbed ability of interoception. And so that I just started kind of digging into that research, and I find it so fascinating because it's really kind of mediated through, of course, the vagus nerve in part that connects, our brain, our heart, and our gut. And I call them the three hearts. And that's how we process all this data that's coming in. But what we do is we just don't listen to it. We live in our head. We let other people make our decisions. And
we count up our points.
Yeah, we count up our points. And I'm like, isn't it just crazy that like the basic things, JJ, that make us human, like how much to eat, when to eat, like how much sleep to get, or things like, procreating, like the things that make us human are the things that we're totally like bewildered by.
Yeah. And if you just slow it down, and it's like when people ask me how much sleep should they have, I go, what you need to do is go away, on vacation and fall asleep when you start to get sleepy and wake up when you wake up, and don't use an alarm. And what you'll find after a week or so is you'll figure out exactly how much sleep you really need,
It's
right?
beautiful. It's beautiful.
It becomes really clear when, and boy, same with food, like, eat in the morning when you actually are really hungry, not when you have a
Yes.
queue, not because you saw a bagel when you were in the Starbucks line. Just eat when
Right.
you got hungry,
Yeah,
and, you know, and keep checking in because probably you're not hungry. You're not really hungry. And then
exactly.
stop. And, there's no little like cue going on there that I see most of us getting tricked by, is what we see on TV or a video, or we smell something baking and boom, I'm
Yeah,
hungry. And you're not.
exactly. And there's been those little, I guess, studies that have said, like, let's say somebody's like, "Oh, I must have that chocolate cake," but you offer them an apple, they're suddenly not hungry, and that's in part.
Oh, yeah.
And that's because we're not really listening. The hunger we're feeling is like we're the signals are getting mixed up. And one of the reasons is because of another one of our senses that we don't really understand is our chemosense. That's kind of another crazy word, because anything that has the word chemo in it sounds so terrifying. But chemosensing is related to olfaction, which is smell, but it's a lot more than smell, JJ. It is these ways that we sense chemicals in food and even in other people, like pheromones. And so we have these receptors, these olfactory receptors that we thought were just in our nose. We have them in our kidneys. We have them in our gut. There are there are olfactory receptors in sperm cells, which just shows you how amazing our body is and how we just are still discovering the science. So your body is scanning the environment for these different chemical signals, not just in your nose, but in your whole body. So that's why sometimes when what we call, in the everyday world, intuition is really, if you pay attention, it's your body's signals really asking you what you need. And this one research article in 2010 found that interoceptive accuracy regulates body responses that are related to your emotional experience. And so the more disconnected you are, the more emotional choices you make.
So, how do we, since we've have become disconnected, how do we reconnect? What can we do to start to, you know, connect the dots again, strengthen
Yes.
that intuition? And I think a big part of that is actually trust ourselves
Oh yeah,
enough.
I like that a lot. So there are some really fun ways that have been studied to increase interoceptive sensibility and sensitivity. The sensitivity is like, how sensitive are you? How much more plugged in are you getting to that? And the sensibility is now, are you able to use this information? Kind of akin to, I read the Virgin Diet, and now am I going to actually do the work? Am I actually going to follow the advice and the processes? So I can go over a few exercises that are kind of like physical, and then I can talk about some nutritive things too. So one study, and these are so cool because they're so easy. They're not like, a lot of people say, "Oh, I've heard of doing these, but I didn't know it did this for me." So one is power posing, and it's really amazing. So some lines of research about interoception show that it is improved through this enhancement of subjective feelings of power. So power posing is when you, let's say, you sit back in your chair and you put your feet up on your desk with your like hands behind, kind of like that classic like CEO pose, right? That you see in like Entrepreneur magazine or something. And when it showed that after a week of doing these power poses and increasing people's subjective feelings of power, this feeling helped them become more in tune with these body signals. So another fun power pose, and I do these with my daughters, is you can just stand up with like your feet hip width apart and your hands on your hips with just kind of this knowing look on your face. And you can make up your own power poses too. And it's just a fun exercise, but it just goes to show that what you do with your body does translate into your nervous system. Just like the studies that say if you're sad, but you smile, eventually it will reactivate the actual affective feelings in your brain, because it's like the top down versus bottom up of employing this kind of nervous system. So power posing is one of the lines of research. Another one is body scanning, and it's really simple too. It showed that people that did body scanning for 8 weeks, where you just either listen to a tape or you did it yourself, where you just scan from top to toe of each part of your body and just pay attention to what your body is feeling. So you can start from your head, your eye, your forehead. Is it tense? Are you furrowing your brow? Is your jaw tight? Are you holding your breath? Are you sucking in your stomach? All the way down. And you don't have to do anything with it. It's just the act over 8 weeks of people doing this process help them increase their interoceptive accuracy.
So you mentioned too about food. Now, I think as far as the body stuff goes, anyone who's been in a bad mood and angry and walks outside, looks up towards the sky and smiles, knows how quickly you can kind of start to shift that physiology.
Yeah.
So that one to be true. And
Yeah.
so now it's just kind of remembering the power pose and getting yours.
Yeah.
We definitely all have our power pose, especially if you're used to like posing for photos. It's like, got it. But I'm curious when you said that that food could do this.
Yeah. So what the food is actually doing is it's strengthening the parts of the brain where this type of information is processed. So there have been fMRI studies that show when people make intuitive decisions, what areas of the brain that it kind of lights up, so to speak. So a very precise part of our brain that's associated with intuition is, it's not that it's important, but it's the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And so it's an area that stores information about past rewards and punishments. Damage to this area causes real changes in decision making. And it can cause people to not really follow the gut or have really intuitive insight. They're more kind of robotic about decisions that they make. So foods and nutrients that strengthen this part of your brain and also the kind of brain, heart, gut axis. So it's just really, again, what I love about this research I've done is it's so simple. So one of them is alpha lipoic acid containing foods. So avocado, spinach, broccoli, potatoes, and if you're a meat eater like I am, not every day, but pasture raised meats and organ meats, which everybody doesn't like to eat that, but those are really high in alpha lipoic acid containing foods. And you can also take those supplements. Others are, of course, flavanol rich foods. So green tea, berries, and green and red veggies, like rainbow chard is one that's really, really good for that. And then there's foods that also help support the hippocampus. So it's a really sensitive area in the brain. There are a few things that kind of disrupt proper function, and foods that are rich in DHA and EPA together are really important. So the best sources of DHA, of course, are fatty fish, salmon, sardines, anchovies, hemp seeds and hemp seed oil, algae, and cod liver oil. And so the thing that's neat is that this area of your brain, like we now know the brain is plastic, but the hippocampus is thought to be even more plastic. So that's the good news, that this area of your brain can always change. And then phosphatidylserine rich foods or phosphatidylserine supplement. So that's like mackerel, organ meat, pasture raised beef, dark meat, turkey and chicken, white beans. And if you don't like to eat those meats, then it's easy to find phosphatidylserine rich foods. I prefer to find one that doesn't have soy if possible. It's really sometimes hard to do that. So those are some of like the basic nutrients. And it's less that like, oh, you take this food and suddenly you're like psychic. It's not about that. It's about,
oh, darn it. I was like, well, I feel like I get big intuitive hits, and those are all the foods I eat. So
I know. These are foods you talk about in your books. So,
the intuitive diet. There it is. Just another reason to eat to eat these foods. But I got to tell you, I think the biggest reason, so disconnection can hurt your health. And I see disconnection as a massive issue. We have disconnected. It not only are we disconnected from ourselves, we're disconnected from each other, but I feel like a lot of that just has gone with people stopping trusting themselves. So, it's like, learn to trust yourself,
Yes.
right? I mean, like, you're going to know best. I mean, that is one of the things as a nutrition expert, I would just sit down and let someone talk me through all of their stuff, because usually the answers were in what they were telling me.
Well, exactly. I love that
It
insight
was
that you
right
have.
there.
Yeah, because a lot of times, I'm sure many times with clients, people would be like, JG, like, how did this happen? And you'd be like, tell me how it happened. And how often do people really know? But they are looking for that validation, because as women, especially, we've been taught from day one to not really trust our bodies.
Right. And then our bodies do weird stuff and we're like, what is that?
Yeah.
I mean, which is why when you look back to why do women get eating disorders, is like trying to stop your body from going and doing all these crazy changes.
Exactly.
So, it starts way back when. All right, we're up against the clock, but I wanted to just before we close it off, you have your awesome podcast, Love is Medicine, and I would just love for you to explain why you called it that.
Yeah. I know I get that question asked a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but it seems to really be resonating. But here's why, JJ, here's why, is that, like, so I've been publishing this kind of science of natural health for a really long time. And then again, seeing how we have all this amazing science at our fingertips, and still people aren't really doing it right. Because otherwise, why would it be that 43% of all American adults have at least one chronic illness? And I mean, that just is like the
Wow.
scariest.
And 70% are overweight or obese. I mean, so I think it's
Terrifying.
probably higher now. So it's like, okay, how many people are actually in this healthy little sliver?
Yeah, exactly. And that's just what we're supposed to be. That's how we're supposed to live. We're supposed to thrive. We're put on this, we're having this like human experience with everything around us that we need. And so it's been our own fault. People don't like, because they feel like I'm judging. Like we were saying, it's people's fault. Well, I mean, if it's about your lifestyle, then it's whose fault is it? So the reason I say love is medicine is because it's kind of an act of love to reconnect to yourself, to be honest enough with yourself to say, like, what do I need to do differently? How do I need to reconnect to good social connections? That's a source of love. How do I need to reconnect to like my external environment and nature? That's a source of love. And how do I need to connect back to myself and love myself? And that's why I chose to call it Love is Medicine.
It's so flowing into everything that I'm really working towards right now, which is that we, especially as women, are caretakers. We just are. It's like, it's inevitable at some point in your life. And I know right now you're going through it. You're going to be a caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, the first person you need to take care of when you're a caretaker is you.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the ultimate, like everyone sees that as so selfish. And I see it as the most selfless thing you can do, so that you can show up and do what what you want and need to do on the planet.
Yeah.
Right?
And, I'm realizing more and more that like my job as a parent is to show my daughters how I can take care of myself.
Exactly. Not sacrifice, not be the martyr, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I have one person in my life who's the absolute martyr and always has health problems, always. And I'm like, yeah, because you put yourself last. There's no trophy for that.
So,
Right. And if you do have kids, what did you just teach them? Like, I'm not
exactly.
going to teach my kids that. I'm going to teach my kids, put your health and yourself first, so that you can then go out and do these amazing things out there in the world. Otherwise, you
Absolutely.
can't. You'll end up being a burden on others instead of being able to take care of others.
And my starting this podcast and this project was because I fail at this sometimes too. I mean, it's one of the reasons why you're such a mentor to me, JJ's, because there have been times where you've been like, Razi.
Well, isn't that love too? I mean, to
Yes,
me,
it
I
is.
want people around me who will not let me play small, who won't let me go off and do silly stuff, who are watching out for me,
Yes,
who'll
it
pick me
is
up when I fall, dust me off. But if I'm lying there on the floor being a baby about stuff, they'll go, get up.
Yeah,
just get up right now.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
sometimes we just need to be told to get up, dust
Yeah.
off, keep going. All right.
Yeah.
Now you have a cool freemium for everybody. Tell us about it. And I'm going to put it at jjvirgin.com/intuition. So it is called The Secret to Unlocking Your Intuition. What you got in there?
Yeah, it's just a fun download that shares what we talked about and some other things, some ways that you can increase that kind of muscle, the interoceptive accuracy of listening within your body. So it kind of will give you a guide of these nutrients we talked about and a few others and some other practices too. So you can get started to start trusting yourself again.
Cool. So it's the foods that help you listen to your gut.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, you used a lot of big words in there. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna fifth grade this one.
Thanks, Jade.
There you go. You're so welcome. Again, it's jjvirgin.com/intuition. And thank you so much, Razi, for jumping on the show and for doing so much cool stuff out in the world for everybody. We'll have in the show notes the link to your podcast as well, and your blog. You've got great resources and information. And really, to me, this is sort of the missing piece of health. And I literally had someone over this weekend who was, doing all sorts of self-care and everything else. I go, yeah, but what about relationships and connection? And are you happy? It's like,
Yeah.
these pieces of it, are probably the most important pieces of all that will guide everything else. So thank you for being a champion.
Thank you, JJ, and thank you so much for being such a force in my life. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Now, after the break, I'll be giving you a takeaway. So stay with me. Welcome back. This is the time where I give you an action step. And as I was listening to Razi throughout, I go, oh my gosh, this really is about two big words kept popping up: trust and connection. I thought, is the reason that we are not listening to our intuition is because we've stopped trusting ourselves. And so we got really disconnected from how we actually feel. And so that is what I'm going to say is like, step one is to connect back in and start to listen. I had a great mentor early on in life who said, listen, truly listen. That simple little phrase. And boy, listen, truly listen. When you get up in the morning, one of the things I've been really working on is shortening my feeding window. So eating most days within an 8-hour window, at the most 12 hours. That's like my absolute, do not eat longer than that. But ideally, I'm doing more like a shorter 8-hour window, sometimes even 6. And so the first thing I do in the morning is I have my black bulletproof coffee. I just do the beans. And water with lemon. And I have a lot of that until I start to notice that I'm really hungry. And that's when I eat. I don't eat when I'm not hungry. I eat when I'm really hungry. But I've had a lot of fluids because quite often we're not hungry, we're thirsty. And then I just kind of pay attention to that to the rest of the day and make sure that I'm eating when I'm hungry, not when I think I'm supposed to be eating because of something else going on, or I smelled something or saw a commercial or whatever. So looking for places where you can start to trust and connect rather than disconnect, right, from yourself and from other people. Again, I think one of the biggest risks we have right now to our health is the disconnection from other people. So how can you connect more to yourself, and how can you connect more to others in your life? All right, those are my marching orders for today. And again, you can pick up the show notes. We'll link over to Razi's freemium and also her podcast and blog at jjvirgin.com/intuition. And if you haven't subscribed yet, remember, subscribe to JJ. Super duper easy. Subscribe to jj.com. Go straight on over there, subscribe, leave a review. I'll give you a shout out. And thank you so much for your support. See you next time. Bye.